As you start your cloud journey, you will no doubt be interested in learnings from organizations that went through the process before you, into action plans, into reference frameworks, into approaches that you could consider, or at the very least, compare your approach to. Now, the learnings and the frameworks are offered by a number of cloud vendors, and they are pretty general, meaning they're not specific to any one cloud, and there's some set of documents that you potentially could learn here from. I'll start off here by referencing the AWS framework, which is called the AWS Cloud Adoption Framework. And as the other frameworks do, broadly speaking, they talk about two big domains to consider, one of them being the business domain and the second one being the technical. In this case, they start off by identifying the stakeholders and mapping them to 6 categories. As you can see there, on the business side, you have business, people, governance. On the technical side, you have the platform, security, and operations. At a high level, the goal is to identify the stakeholders' capabilities and consider how they might be transformed through this process. Ultimately, what skills and processes are changed, and how do you address the gaps that you might find. This is not an easy process. This takes quite a bit. There's not necessarily a one-to-one mapping, but this is the process you need to go through in order to unearth these capabilities that you want to address. There's a great deal of more guidance, there's good examples, and this might be one of the frameworks you want to consider. Another framework is offered by Google, and you can see here that they provide a white paper through which you can see their vision of how you might go on this journey. You can see here that there's a few verticals of where you can learn, lead, scale, secure, and this addresses the maturity scale. And also on the left-hand side, you see the tactical, the strategic, and the transformational. You'll find that many of the topics that are covered in one framework exist in the others in greater or lesser form, but for the most part, they tend to have very similar components. The last one that I'll mention is that of Azure. You can see here the process, in this case, the adoption cycle that many organizations go through. And it's worth mentioning here that you do not need to follow any one of these approaches. It's just learnings that have been found from talking to many organizations and watching many organizations go through the process and working with many organizations in this process. In general, it has been covered in other sections. We go through the very first project, we go through the building blocks, we go through the migration strategies, and ultimately, once you are on the cloud, once you have that flexibility, you can start to be more ambitious, to optimize, to be able to reinvent. And so this is some of the work that is available for you to be able to leverage, to be able to consider as you consider your change, as you consider your journey in going to the cloud.